Thank you so much. Good evening, guys. A very happy new year to everyone. Happy New Year, sir. Thank you for joining us today. So, we are going to talk about precisely communication today. It's very important in every field that you're in, and more so when you're a lawyer. And we are going to talk about cross examination today, which is a smarter form of communication, smarter form of not only speaking, just but speaking after you've thought about what you're going to speak about and the answers that you're going to get. So earlier this week, we did one webinar with Jayant sir, which was on cross-examination in various high-profile cases. And today we are going to discuss about cross-examination of different profiles, different kind of persons. What would be different kind of scenarios, situations in which a different kind of person would be cross-examined, and what kind of questions would you want to ask the person? How would you ask those questions? What would be the complete aura setup that you'll have to do? So without further ado, I'll start directly with the question, sir, if you allow.
Sure, Raghav. Let's get cracking here.
Thank you. So first of all, sir, can you just give us a general outline of what a cross examination is? What kind of provisions are attracted? How do we come up to that stage? कैसे शुरू होती है? क्यों शुरू होती है? कब आती है और कैसे होती है?
So I think a very important and interesting question. And I must tell you before I answer you that in the past 9 months, I haven't done any cross-examination because of COVID-19, courtesy COVID-19. But yes, in my last 12 years of practice, I have done multiple cross-examinations, which have made me learn acutely about the psyche, the human psyche, and also the different, axes of court craft. Because at the end of the day, cross-examination, as they say, is the success mantra for at least any lawyer on the original side, on the trial side, and especially if you want to be a criminal lawyer and practicing criminal law. तो आपने दो तीन बड़े अहम सवाल किए कि क्यों की जाती है, कैसे की जाती है. इसके बड़े बड़े सारे इसके नजरिए हैं उसको समझने के, कि जब भी कोई मुकदमा आप केस में डालते हैं या जब भी कोई नया केस फाइल होता है, तो जज के पास कोई मैजिक वॉन्ड नहीं है ये पता लगाने के लिए कि आप सच कह रहे हैं कि आप झूठ कह रहे हैं. So there are two parties in a criminal matter. You have the prosecution and you have the accused, or a complainant or an accused. In a civil matter, you have the plaintiff and the defendant. So how is the judge going to come to a conclusion and eventually decide a case either by way of decree or an order or a judgment? तो उसके जो सफर होता है कंप्लेंट से लेके जजमेंट का, उसके बीच की जो प्रोसेस होती है उसको कहते हैं ट्रायल. और ट्रायल में सवाल जवाब होते हैं, एग्जामिनेशन इन चीफ होता है, क्रॉस एग्जामिनेशन होता है, री एग्जामिनेशन होता है, जो कि इंडियन एविडेंस एक्ट में डिफाइंड है. तो क्यों जरूरत है इसकी? मैंने कहा क्योंकि मैजिक और नहीं है. तो अगर राघव मेरे साथ आके कहते हैं कि सर मुझे मेरे कुलीग ने या मेरी गर्लफ्रेंड ने चांटा मार दिया, और मैं उनके कुलीग के पास जाके पूछता हूँ क्यों मारा, तो कहते हैं जी राघव मुझे ईव टीज कर रहा था. तो इट बिकम्स अ क्लासिक सिनेरियो ऑफ ही सेड एंड शी सेड. आई डोंट नो हु इज स्टेटिंग द ट्रूथ. तो इसलिए जरूरत पड़ेगी मुझे, जब आपको कटघरे में लाया जाएगा, मान लीजिए अगर आपके फ्रेंड या गर्लफ्रेंड या लेडी फ्रेंड जो भी है आपकी, वो एक कंप्लेनेंट बन जाती है और आप एक अक्यूज बन जाते हैं, खुदा ना खास्ता ऐसा हो, गॉड फॉरबिड, बट इफ इट हैपेंस, then let's say I'm a lawyer, so it will be my duty and my role to cross examine that lady and ask her few pertinent questions. और pertinent questions अगर मैं अभी बता दूंगा तो फिर हम कोर्स में क्या डिसाइड करेंगे या डिस्कस करेंगे, तो वो चीज हो जाती है. बट देन आई हैव टू प्रिपेयर अ समरी. आई हैव टू सी कि पुलिस ने इसमें क्या इन्वेस्टिगेशन की है, क्या चार्जशीट फाइल की है, उसमें जो प्राइम विटनेस हैं वो लेडी होंगी, who has raised their allegation that you were eve teasing her or you were passing lewd comments or harassing her or whatever the matter be. And then considering whatever prior history you have shared, are there any other documentary evidences which highlights your friendship, highlights any prior relationship, highlights something which may show any vindictiveness on her part to harm you. तो ये सारी चीजें कैसे हम कोर्ट के सामने लाएं, क्योंकि मैं लीडिंग क्वेश्चन तो पूछ नहीं सकता. लीडिंग क्वेश्चंस आर नॉट अलाउड इन क्रॉस एग्जामिनेशन की, जैसा ऑब्जेक्ट करेंगे. तो लीडिंग क्वेश्चन क्या होता है? जैसे मैं उनसे नहीं पूछ सकता कि डिड राघव किस यू और डिड ही ट्राई टू किस यू, बिकॉज द ऑब्वियस आंसर विल बी नो. तो मुझे ये सवाल पूछना पड़ेगा कि हाउ डू यू नो राघव, और फॉर हाउ मेनी इयर्स हैव यू नोन राघव. और ये इनडायरेक्टली ये आप सवाल कर सकते हैं. ये बात तो सही है कि मे बी राघव इज ट्राइंग टू प्रोटेक्ट यू. द मोमेंट शी सेज यस, देन वन ऑफ द फैक्टम फॉल्स अगेंस्ट हर, बिकॉज अगर वो आपको प्रोटेक्ट कर रहे थे तो आपको हरास नहीं करेंगे. तो ऐसी बहुत सारी चीजें होती हैं कि किस सर्कमस्टेंसेस में वो एलिगेशंस लेवल की गई, प्रायर हिस्ट्री क्या थी, वर यू इन अ लिव इन, वर यू गर्लफ्रेंड बॉयफ्रेंड्स, वर यू जस्ट गुड फ्रेंड्स, was there any family discord. So ये सारी चीजों को एज अ लॉयर परखना पड़ता है, समझना पड़ता है, हम लोग को इसकी वैल्यूएशन करनी पड़ती है. We have to prepare a case and we have to think from multiple angles इसमें सिर्फ ये नहीं कि आप एक तरफा क्रॉस करेंगे, क्योंकि जो दूसरी साइड के वकील होते हैं इसमें वो भी कई बार ऑब्जेक्शन रेज करते हैं. आप देखते होंगे फिल्मों में कई बार कहते हैं ऑब्जेक्शन माय लॉर्ड करके बात आती है. ऐसा असली कोर्ट में भी होता है कि मेनी टाइम्स द ऑपोजिट पार्टी में बी स्ट्रिंजेंटली ऑब्जेक्टिंग यू, नॉट अननेसेसरली, but there may be times when they may prevent or trying to safeguard the interest of their clients. तो ऐसे बहुत सवाल जवाब होते हैं. जो ट्रायल की जो अपनी जर्नी है, जो एग्जामिनेशन क्रॉस एग्जामिनेशन का जो सफर है अपने आप में, बहुत ही मैं समझता हूँ एक इंटरेस्टिंग एक सफर है, क्योंकि पूरे जो केस होते हैं, जो मुकदमे होते हैं, उसकी एक्सेस व्हील पे आके ठहर जाते हैं. तो ये बहुत जरूरी है समझना हम लोगों को. एंड आई थिंक एज वी गो फॉरवर्ड दिस वीक ऑनवर्ड्स, we'll be delving into the world, the fanciest world of examination and cross examination.
Indeed, sir. Before moving forward, I forgot to tell you all that we are going to start with the cross examination course with Jayan sir from 9th of January, this Saturday. And if my team is present or someone who has already registered, please share the link in the chat box. So this was about a regular witness and a regular case where cross examination happens. So in case we are, let's move on a step higher. And what if we are cross-examining a police officer who's already known to the world, who already knows the kind of aura, he knows how to handle such situations. He is not afraid of what question might come. Maybe he is already prepared. Maybe he does not even need a preparation. So how best, cross-examine police officer?
So look, when you say police officer, let me give an illustration of a hit and run matter. Let's say a person A is driving his car, hits person B, absconds person B, makes a complaint. Police comes, naps person A, and says, he's then booked under FIR for rash and negligent driving, and hurting and all those, if there is simple hurt and etc. Now, when you say police person, there may be types of police persons involved in a matter. It may be a person who first recorded a 100-number call or a 100-number complaint. That's also a police officer. A police officer who acts as a witness, who maybe went with the investigating officer to the scene of crime to assess the nature of the impact of the crime. So let's say there are three categories of officer. A person who first is a recipient of a 100-number call. Then you also have a police officer who gets that 100-number call converted into an FIR. Then you have a police officer who goes from the Thana in a PCR van with the investigating officer and does the investigation. So I'm not going to give you all the illustration today on how to cross-examine all the police officers, but let's say I cross-examine the police officer who was accompanying the IO or the investigating officer at the scene of the crime. So it's not about how prepared he is or how regularly it does a matter. It's also about the mentality of the police officer as to how seriously he want to prosecute a matter. Because they do these cases day in and day out. It's nothing new for them. But for a client who has been accused of a crime, for whom every defense lawyer in the country would like an acquittal or like a discharge, considering how favorably you argue a matter, the cross-examination becomes a very, very important craft. So if I have to cross-examine, let's say a police witness, then I'll ask him, what time did you receive the information from the 100-number call center? And when you received the call, how did you go to the scene of the crime? Were you accompanied by the IO? Were you driving on your own? Did the IO summon you? When you reached the scene of the crime, what did you witness? Let's say if my client's car was not there, how did you know that it was my client's car? Then he may say, okay, the complainant informed us. So then I can ask him, because he was not an eyewitness to the crime, that once you inspected the car, could you come to a conclusion that it was my client's fault? So depending on his answer, it can be a yes or a no, depending on which side he is trying to protect. If he says, no, yes, we know that, your client had played the fault, then my next question will be, if you're not there at the time of commission of the crime, how can you say that my client was the one who was at fault? So he has no answer. So you have to trap him. You have to create all these questions around him, around the scenario to trap him, because he's not an eyewitness. He's a hearsay witness. So, and if you are examining the IO, because IO is the main person who has done all the investigation, then you ask him questions differently. So, I've done so many now trials, and every time a trial happens, every police person has to be questioned differently depending on the nature of the crime. So if it's a murder matter, if it's a white collar crime, if it's a rape matter, there are different categories of questions that you have to put to a police person to ascertain whether they are actually conjuring up a story or what they are saying before the court in their deposition is actually true or not.
So in case of cross-examination cross-examining police officer, is there a sense of risk also, a sense of pressure on the person who's cross-examining? Is there that sort of situations?
I think there is more pressure on the police person because he has a case to prove. He's from the prosecution, and he knows the lapses in his hearts of hearts. He knows if the charge sheet lacks something. He knows inside his head and in his heart whether he is compromised in his investigation, whether he has been swayed indirectly by any parties involved in litigation. So there are a lot many factors, and overconfidence always goes against you. So if he's overconfident, the chances are he's going to fumble. So I'll give you a very small example from one of my trials just to illustrate the point that I'm trying to make. So there was a case where one of my clients, who just got acquitted, in fact, last year during Corona, we had a final argument in this matter. So the case was a forgery of a government sticker in a car. And the investigating officer, told me before the cross-examination that, I've seen too many young lawyers like you, and I'm not afraid and this and that. I'm like, I'm not trying to intimidate you, I'm trying to cross you. So let's keep it civil. And he was quite overconfident of himself that he's going to get my client prosecuted. So there were 2-3 questions I asked him. I said, look, you took the photographs of my client's car. He's like, yes, I took the photographs. And I said, if you took the photographs, did you verify those photographs with the department? He's like, no. And then how do you ascertain a claim that it was my client who had forged the sticker? Also, at the time when you took the photographs, the keys of the car were in your possession. He's like, yes. I'm like, so you opened the car? He's like, yes. And you took the stickers out and put it in the charge sheet? He's like, yes. So I said, which it implies that the car practically has your fingerprints and not my client's fingerprints. And then he had no answer. So he was trapped. So never be overconfident, because you may try to run a lawyer down, but a lawyer is doing his job day in and day out. A police person may come to a court as a witness, but a lawyer comes to the court as an officer of the court, and that is what we do. That's our job. The job of a police person is to investigate and not cross. But the role of a lawyer is to, again, sift the grain from the chaff. So that's where, the role of a lawyer becomes very, very important, especially in a criminal trial.
Right. So stepping down, or I would say making it a little more complicated, I don't know, you'll tell us. If we are to cross-examine a minor or a person who's not a regular person, who's not an adult, then what should be the kind of approach that a lawyer should have while cross-examining?
So look, when we speak of minors, things are different because they are supposed to be, juvenile witnesses or, sensitive witnesses. So especially in matters where POCSO charges are involved, grave nature sexual harassment and allegation, where a child may also be a victim besides being a witness. So at least I can tell you, in Delhi, we have, a different witness room for sensitive witnesses, for child witnesses. And they are given a separate room along with a neutral third party and along with a child care specialist who counsels them beforehand and sits with them throughout. And they are made to sit in a separate room so they don't have to face the accused directly. So it's practically an in-camera proceeding. In one room, you will have the judge, the lawyers, and the accused, and a witness, a child witness who is also, let's say, the victim of a crime, is made to sit in a separate room, and through video conferencing, these things take place. So all these things are taken care of. Sometimes a judge may not even allow a lawyer to ask direct questions to a child witness, and I may put a question, and then the judge may translate it to the mediator who is sitting there, or the child, the NGO person or a child specialist, and he may speak to the child, independently. And that is, everything is, you can see on the video, video portal. So those are very, very sensitive cases. Let's say there is a 10-year-old child or 12-year-old child, maybe a boy, maybe a girl, who has been victim of a sexual activity, so as to say, and there may be separate trauma attached to them. So in a sensitive witness box, or in a sensitive witness room, as we call it, you have to be very careful with your examination. You can't treat them at par with a police officer or a regular adult, because chances are there are less reasons for a child to lie and to manipulate. So that's why most of the time, if you see High Court judgments and Supreme Court judgments, you have many of them, they find it sometimes hard to disbelieve a child's testimony. And the younger the child is, let's say it's a child of 8 years old or 7 years or 5 years of age, there are very slim chances that they may be trying to manipulate, because they do not know how the world works. So that's why you have to be extremely careful in cross-examining a child. If you think it's a very, very sensitive matter, just tread on very carefully, ask pertinent questions, make the person comfortable. Ask which school they go to, how old are they, what did they have for breakfast, just make them comfortable. And once they're comfortable, you put very limited questions to them. What were you doing that day? What happened around you? When a particular, let's say, scenario would have happened, you would have to, not, you also have to protect your client. Let's say if you're representing the accused, you'll have to ask, did you know this person from before? You can't ask leading questions. You can't ask what did the person do, because then he'll say he did something wrong with me. So that's the question you have to avoid. So then, depending on how the charge sheet has been framed, again, if the family had any prior contact with the accused, was it a known person? Was it an unknown third party? So all those things then have to be considered. And if it's a child who is, let's say, very clever, let's say it's a teenager who's worldly wise, let's say there were civil litigations pending between the parties, and the family, out of vindictiveness, have framed a false FIR and have made child a party, then accordingly you have to cross a party. So I've done that also. In one of my matrimony cases, one of the daughter, in fact, the stepdaughter of one of my clients, was put to the pedestal, and she was tutored by her mother inside out, and I had to really grill her, indirectly. And by the time, in 2-3 settings, by the time the cross-examination had ended, from being a minor, she had become a major. So when we started the cross-examination, she was about 17. And in 2-3 settings, she had celebrated her 18th birthday. So she had become an adult. So then, once you're an adult, you are also a little free to have a go at the witness. So, all those things you have to consider while you're before the court. And as I said, carefully tread, because the witnesses can also be very clever. So you have to see whether you are making a case which will backfire, or are you making a case which is worth your while.
So in many cases, the witness might be pressured by the family. जैसे अभी आपने जिस girlfriend से मुझे पिटवाया, तो वो उसको family का pressure भी हो सकता है. Then she's also pressurized from my side. So in these cases, there's a lot of homework that has to be done, and the on-spot work that you have to do around the cross-examination. You have to तैयार भी करने हैं witnesses बहुत सारे. So what are different, what should we be taking care of while doing all the preparation?
तो बड़ी सारी तैयारियां. देखिए, अगर मान लीजिए आपकी गर्लफ्रेंड ने FIR कर दी है और अगर आपने उस पर बेल ले ली है, तो बेल की कंडीशन होगी that you can't be contacting her or influencing a witness. That's a very standard bail clause which a court puts. तो you can't do that. तो आप मल्टीपल WhatsApp उनको नहीं भेज सकते, या हाइड मैसेंजर पे उनसे चैट हाइड करने की कोशिश नहीं कर सकते, बिकॉज इलेक्ट्रॉनिक मीडिया will have all this digital evidence from your end, and you will be in a soup. So don't violate the court's order. That is number one. Yes, so far as the homework is concerned, if you are my client and you are the accused, you will be telling कि भाई उन्होंने अपने father mother के कहने पे मेरे पे false case डाला है. They are not agreeable to love marriage. There are other societal considerations which are there. So we can always summon their parents also in the witness box. Not every witness has to be a prosecution witness. As defense witnesses, we can try to put a case, and ask the parents to be present in a court to ensure and to perhaps also make a case कि वो सही कह रहे हैं कि गलत कह रहे हैं, उनके कहने पे हुआ था. अगर वो नहीं आना चाहते, तो कोई अगर टेक्स्ट मैसेज एक्सचेंज हो जो आपकी फ्रेंड ने आपको दिखा कि देखो मेरी मदर ने मुझे ऐसे बोला या मेरे फादर ने मुझे मैसेज किया है, सो उसका डेटा हम कोर्ट में प्रोड्यूस करवा सकते हैं. So that, while cross-examining a witness, I can contradict to that data. I can confront the witness कि look, this is what your mother said, and you are lying on oath before a court. So ये सब homework करने पड़ते हैं आपको. मान लीजिए जिस दिन आप एलिगेशन लगी आप अपनी फ्रेंड के साथ थे ही नहीं, आप कहीं और थे. So for that matter, I'll have to go to the court and get your call detail records out. I'll have to put an application, because only through a court order will a police investigating officer will obtain your call detail records, and put it before the court. Let's say you were outside the town where you normally reside. You were on a moot court visit, or you were in a different court hearing, it may be whatever. तो वो चीज दिखाने के लिए कि आप उस दिन थे नहीं जिस दिन हादसा हुआ है और आप तो कहीं और थे, तो वो भी हमें प्रूव करनी पड़ती है कई बार चीजें.
So definitely we're going to take all this in length when we are doing the course. So we'll also delve into the body language that must play a very important part, and making a person comfortable, that should have a lot of things that a lawyer will have to do. So moving on, we've already discussed about a person who's traumatized, a girlfriend or a minor. So what if there's a person who's an expert? We are cross-examining an expert. In such situations, if you can illustrate an exam through an example, how that scenario works.
So when you say expert witnesses, there are different categories. If you speak of a hit and run matter, the expert witness would be a person who has been evaluating motor vehicles for a number of years. That may be a motor vehicle expert. If you are doing a white collar crime, a lot of these big four, they do a forensic audit So they may have their witnesses which you call expert witness, which are habitual in doing forensic audits. When you are doing any of the regular criminal matter, you have experts coming from the forensic teams of different parts. In Delhi, you have the Forensic Science Laboratory, from which different experts come who may have done research on ballistics or different on different swabs, other things in a fake note currency. So you have to ask them questions accordingly, whether the chain of a particular series, once the police officers have given you the custody of something to be determined and their forensic authenticity to be determined, was the chain broken in between, and what was the was the evidence tempered while it was in the custody, was it compromised, is this investigation spot on, have they mixed the facts of two matters or not, have they been spot on with this particular analysis in their expert report, or just on the saying of the IU, have they just blankly signed the paper and submitted in a court. So all those questions, you put before a evidence expert and you try to break them down. For example, in a rape matter, you will call a gynecologist or a government doctor who would have taken, the swabs and other medical report of a victim. So you also have to ask them different questions. What did you see? Did you ask a victim any question? Did you speak to your supervisor? Did you take requisite permissions? Are there any lapses in the administrative, hierarchy? Is there any folly on their part? So all those things you have to consider, and that only comes with time and experience. As you grow in the profession, you know what questions to ask, which witness expert.
Right. So last kind of personality that we will talk about would be an influential person. So Netaji ko hum cross examine kar rahe hain, and he has a lot of power. He knows that he can influence people, and there are a lot of things that are inclining towards him already in the court. So how do you prepare yourself? What are some foot forwards that we can know about and we can put forward so that we are already ahead of things and we are not affected by the influence?
So in court, unless Netaji has tried his power to influence other witnesses, they will be dropped or they will not turn up. कई बार ऐसा होता है. This is basically from, let's say, from a prosecution's point of view. कि नेताजी तो अक्यूज्ड ही होंगे, प्रोसिक्यूट तो नहीं कर रहे होंगे, मैं ही मान के चलता हूँ, है ना. तो नेताजी अगर अक्यूज्ड हैं और वो चाहेंगे कि भाई अगर प्रोसिक्यूशन के लेट्स से 20 विटनेसेस थे, जिनमें से 4 आप मान के चलिए कि चश्मदीद गवाह थे, जिनको माई विटनेस कहते हैं, एंड ही हैज बीन आइदर ब्रॉट ओवर और दे हैव बीन इंटिमिडेटेड, तो वो चारों आई विटनेस गोल कर जाते हैं, नहीं आते कोर्ट फॉर वट एवर रीजन, मेडिकल रीजन है, शहर छोड़ के भाग गए, अंडरग्राउंड हो गए, तो आप नहीं कुछ कर सकते. पर अगर वो विटनेस आ जाते हैं और उनको ट्यूटर किया जाता है नेताजी या नेताजी के स्ट्रॉन्ग आर्म एंड स्ट्रॉन्ग होल्ड द्वारा, तो अकॉर्डिंगली यू विल देन हैव टू फाइंड द राइट वे. क्या क्वेश्चन इनसे पूछे कि नेताजी का क्राइम निकल के आए, क्योंकि आप जो भी बोलेंगे और चीज को मना करते रहेगा, देन हाउ डू यू क्रैक देम, दैट बिकम्स अ क्वेश्चन. तो मैं पूछूंगा, अच्छा आप नेताजी को जानते हैं? हाँ जी जानते हैं. क्या नेताजी ने आपको पैसे दिए? तो मना कर देगा मुंह पे, क्यों कोर्ट में बोलेगा? मतलब ही वुड नॉट इनवाइट कंटेम्प्ट ऑफ कोर्ट ना, कि वो या टैम्परिंग ऑफ विटनेस या टैम्परिंग अ ट्रायल. तो ये आप सवाल नहीं पूछ सकते, तो आपको पूछना पड़ेगा, अच्छा जब हादसा हुआ तब आप कहाँ थे? उसके बारे में तो झूठ नहीं बोल सकता, क्योंकि अगर उसकी हमने कॉल डिटेल रिकॉर्ड निकाल के रखी होगी या उसके चश्मदीद ऑलरेडी बना हुआ है, तो उससे बात पूछा जाएगी क्या नेताजी को, जैसे मान लीजिए नेताजी ने किसी का मर्डर कर दिया फॉर एग्जाम्पल, तो उससे पूछा जाएगा कि भाई उस टाइम पे कितने लोग मौजूद थे? बोलेगा जी 4 थे. अब आपको पता, अगर आप पूछेंगे क्या नेताजी वहां थे, तो उसका आंसर होगा ना, क्योंकि उसको तो नेताजी ने सेट कर रखा है, तो आप कैसे उसको बाईपास करें? तो आप डायरेक्ट क्वेश्चन मत पूछिए, आप ये पूछिए कि अच्छा नेताजी से आपकी आखिरी मुलाकात कब हुई थी, क्या नेताजी को आप कब से जानते हैं, कैसे टर्म्स हैं, क्या कभी आपकी फैमिली की हेल्प की उन्होंने, या गांव में उनका आपसे क्या रिलेशन है, कितना उठना बैठना है, क्या कभी पंचायत में आते हैं कि नहीं आते. तो यू हैव टू बी रियली डिस्क्रीट, यू हैव टू बी सटल, यू हैव टू बी इनडायरेक्ट अबाउट दीस थिंग्स, क्योंकि जहां पर डायरेक्ट सवाल उससे पूछा वो बिदक जाएगा, मुकर जाएगा, क्योंकि उसकी समझ सीधे क्वेश्चन को तो लेके आ गई है. और यहीं पे आपका जो जौहर है एज अ ट्रायल कोर्ट लॉयर, या जो आपकी क्राफ्ट है जिसको आप फोन करते हैं, यू हैव टू बी रियली डिस्क्रीट एंड इनडायरेक्ट, कि कैसे वो हम ये सेटअप करें कि ये नेताजी को जानता था और नेताजी के कहने पे ही ऐसा कर रहा है, वो भी आपको दिखाना पड़ेगा. तो sometimes to achieve the target, it may not be 100% success, but there may be 70-80% success, which may help you in cement your case. So ये सारी चीजें आपको बहुत बारीकी से कंसिडर करनी पड़ती हैं जब आप ट्रायल कंडक्ट करते हैं.
Right. So there's one question we already have in the chat box, is that this is an exciting question. I was also going to ask this. Which is the strangest and most important case that you have tried and cross-examined, that you remember as one of the best cases that you've cross-examined?
बहुत सारे. I don't think I can point to one, but just to give an example, there was a fake currency matter I was doing a few years ago, and one of my clients was alleged to be the kingpin of that fake currency. तो ये सवाल उसमें आया कि भाई 3 लाख रुपए के नकली नोट बरामद हुए हैं और फोरेंसिक्स में उनको भेजा जाता है और फोरेंसिक्स की जब जांच होके आती है तो दे ऑलवेज कम इन सील्ड कवर विद अ रेड सील और वो सील को तोड़ा जाता है कोर्ट के आगे जब बॉक्स खुलता है. तो 3 लाख रुपए की बात हुई थी कि करेंसीज हैव बीन सीज्ड फ्रॉम डिफरेंट पीपल. तो जब कोर्ट में एफएसएल का डब्बा खोला गया तो उसमें 3 नहीं 4 लाख के नकली नोट मिले. तो आई टुक एन ऑब्जेक्शन देयर एंड देन आई टोल्ड द सेशन जज कि 3 लाख की बात हो रही है एफआईआर में, चार्जशीट में भी 3 लाख की बात होती है और यहाँ पे कोर्ट के सामने 4 लाख रुपए निकल के आते हैं. तो 1 लाख रुपया तो प्लांट किए गए मुझ पे, या पूरा केस बोगस है. एंड दैट वाज वन पॉइंट व्हिच रियली टर्न द केस अराउंड फॉर मी. ऐसी बहुत सारी चीजें होती है. इसी केस में दूसरी चीज जो मैंने साइट की थी कि एक शहर है बिहार में, वहाँ पे आईयू पुलिस ऑफिसर की बात आपने पहले की मुझसे, तो वाज वेरी ओवर कॉन्फिडेंट, वेरी क्लेवर. तो आई आस्क्ड हिम कि अच्छा आप यहाँ पे गए, अच्छा जी आई टर्न सॉरी somebody said to speak in English. So I spoke to the IU and I said, did you go to this particular place in the train? He said yes. I'm like, so you arrested my client from his hometown and then you got back to the train station and then you came back to Delhi? Because that's what the arrest memo says. He's like, yes. And I looked at the judge and I said, my lords, with all due respect, I don't think the IU is telling the truth because there is no railway station in this town. There is no railway line in this town. So I do not know how he's gone there on his own. So either he's making it up because the nearest, railway station is about 200 kilometers away. So, the case fell flat on its face. The client would have quitted later. So you have to be prepared with your case. You have to know where the police is, doing its fancy cursive writing in the charge sheet, whether they're stating the truth or not. So you have to know the system. You have to understand the system. You have to understand the psyche of the court. You have to, also know your shortcomings as a lawyer, when you're young. Because when you're young, you're bound to make more mistakes. You do not know which question is the right question. And I think as you grow in the profession, as you conduct more and more trials, as you conduct more and more matters, you definitely grow in finesse. You have this art of subtlety, which is, I think, paramount when you're doing cross-examination. So these things only come with experience. I don't think any law book can teach you. Yes, it can guide you to a certain extent, but this is such a practical aspect of advocacy that I think without coming to court and without delving into the world of trial law, no book, no judgment can teach you this.
So you already told that there's no book that can teach you, and we have a question that if there's a book that can help with cross-examination, is there a book?
You can read. There are too many commentaries. You can read and take excerpts from that, but it's something like this. Look, when I was in law school, I also studied a number of books to clear my papers. But do they come to my rescue today as a lawyer? I don't think so. I'm being very honest. And I'm not saying stop reading books because they are an indicator. They at least, gets the groundwork going for you. They help you understand the basics of law. But understanding basics and becoming an expert are two different things. The first day out of law school, if I were to give you a client, you would not know how to handle a client. No book teaches you that. There is no textbook to that. Similarly, no teacher teaches you how to conduct a cross-examination. A moot court in law school is very different from a real court and how you argue in a real court. In real court, no judge has 1 or 2 hours to spare to you exclusively, or to listen to both the parties. So you have to understand that there is a world of difference in real life and when you're in college. So I'm not saying books are bad, but all I'm saying is books will not prepare you for life. Experience. That's why people say there is no substitute for experience. So experience is one thing that is enriching, that is all encompassing. And I as a practicing lawyer have undergone my journey of being a junior in a trial court and then conducting so many trials on my own, and that has really taught me a lot of things in my journey so far.
Right. So another question from Rishi is that if a judicial magistrate is mishandling your trial or is being biased or inclined towards one party, how do you tackle that magistrate?
If you go to a judge and ask for a change of a judge, you can always do that. There is always an administrative head in every district court called the Sessions and District Judge who has the power to transfer your case. If you think there is a judge who is being biased, there is a judge who is not being honest to his case, who is definitely being vindictive to you as a party, you can anytime ask for transfer of a judge or transfer of a case from one judge to the other judge.
So another question, what should be the adequate length of a cross? That might depend from case to case, but is there a adequate
No, it depends from case to case. It depends on the role of the witness. So, for example, let's say, again, coming to the fake currency example, let's say IU again has always a very important role because he is always examined at the end because he's, the connecting, he's the person who's connecting dots amongst all the witnesses, and he's the one who has prepared the charge sheet. So let's say, a witness comes who is not of very much importance to the case. Let's say a person to whom you first dialed 100 number. Now he has a very minuscule role in the trial. So his cross may last for 5 minutes or 2 minutes. But when you're cross-examining an IO, the cross may go on for 1 hour or 2 hours also, depending on his role, depending on the, the pages in the charge sheet, what all has he said in the charge sheet, what all is going against you that you need to rebut in a court of law. So a lot many things and a lot many factors are there.
So another question: what is the kind of ratio of practical experience being used and the legal provisions being used in a cross-examination?
So again, it's hand in hand. Understand this. Let's say it's your first day in court, or let's say it's your second year in court, not even first day, right? And you've studied some bits and bobs of law. You're still trying to get your head around how the trial is conducted and everything. And suddenly you have a very famous senior lawyer coming against you. You would assume that they know everything. And they may know that they don't know everything. But in your mind, they are 10 steps ahead of you. Obviously, you'll be nervous and everything. Similarly, let's say even if there is no senior lawyer, but the judge is sitting who is senior. Let's say a session judge is sitting and you're conducting cross-examination. And there's a witness right there. For 2 years in the profession, let's say you've never conducted a trial and it's your first trial and you go, how would you know which question to ask? You may end up asking wrong questions and watching up the case for you. So it's important, to keep reading the books and observing your seniors, observing other lawyers when they're conducting cross-examination when you're sitting for your matters. That's one thing I always tell people: don't waste your time in court. Even if you're sitting for your matter, waiting for your matter, sometimes even a normal lawyer would come up with such an excellent series of cross-examination that you may end up learning something even while waiting for your case. And then okay, this is that case about that. And sometimes in the future, when a similar case comes to you, you can use the same line of defense or same line of, prosecution to your case also.
Another question: is it true that judges are prosecution-minded while cross-examination? Are they?
No, not necessarily. There are all types of judges. There are good, bad, and ugly. I don't think I can weave them in the same cloth or say that they are all the same. But having said that, yes, there are a few judges who are very, very prosecution-minded. But even let's say if they prosecute your client, there are appellate courts, to reverse that prosecution. And it happens in the country, day in and day out. A judge may pass a judgment, it goes into appeal, and the appellate court may revise it.
Right. So another one, sir, I am afraid as a young lawyer that I would have to face an aggressive witness. How do you handle that?
You have to calm yourself down first, and that's very important. Because what we don't realize is once you think the witness is aggressive, you also try to be aggressive. You don't have to be aggressive. If the witness is trying to misbehave with you in a court, trying to diminish or demean the modesty of the court, you must complain to the judge. Even if the judge is listening to some other argument or matter, you may put a pause. You may complain to the judge formally, then saying that this witness is not, adhering to the rules of cross-examination or the court conduct. This happened with me, in fact, last year, where a driver had come in one of my matters, and he was being very hostile and very aggressive. And I normally speak in this tone as I'm talking to you. I don't normally raise my tone of pitch so much. And I paused myself and I requested the honorable court that this driver is not cooperating, and he's not trying to understand the question that I'm trying to put to him. And it's not that he doesn't have the capacity or capability to understand. He's just trying to be evasive. So they just scolded him. After he got scolded, he tried answering all my questions. But after he answered all the questions, he again budged from signing the testimony that he had given. So the judge really got riled, and he said, look, he told the NAB court is the police person present in the court, in a magistrate's court. And he told the NAB court, look, put him to jail right now if he's not trying to adhere to the mandate of the court. He has to sign his deposition. If he's not, we can't ask him to, but then he goes to jail. for wasting the time and blocking the judge in discharging his duties. Government servant discharging his duty, and then and there the driver signed the paper. Folded his hands, pleaded for mercy, apologized, and then left the court after that.
Yeah, actually, you're in a court. You're in the safest environment, so you can go for it. So another question, a very naive question, is that, sir, what is a practical difference between a moot court? Is it different from normal trials, or is it so much so like that?
I think very, very different, madam or sir, whosoever is asking the question. Moot court, you have all the time in the world to prepare, research, prepare your memo, submit it, and then argue. When you are in an actual court scenario, sometimes the client may come to, let's say today is Monday, right? Let's say a client comes to me next half an hour and the matter is still for tomorrow. I'll still have to prepare everything. And that is where my experience comes into play. That's where my legal acumen that I've developed over the years of knowing what to read in the file, how to argue a matter, what exactly is going to happen tomorrow. All those things come. In moot court, you have a time schedule, you have rules for moot courts, which date your moot is going to be conducted and what time. In real court, anything may happen at any point in time. It's a big gamble.
Right. Another question from Krati Gautam is that, can we ask leading questions during a criminal appeal in High Court where conviction has been done by the lower court?
High courts never have cross-examinations. It's only the trial court which is cross-examination.
Right. Krati, I hope there's no extended question to that one. And another question from Shikha. Sir, what's your approach or conduct when you feel that the witness you're examining is taking you for a ride and is not being on point?
It hasn't happened so far because I don't let them take me for a ride. Otherwise, my clients won't engage me.
Right. So I think we're done with the questions for today, and also we are out of our time. Thank you so much for giving us so much time, Jayant. And again, notifying everyone that we are going to start with a course, a length, in-length course on cross-examination starting from Saturday, 9th January. You can find it on www.lawyersclubindia.com/learning. And we're going to take all the aspects thread by thread of cross-examination, many illustrations that are going to come in a span of 6 Saturdays starting from 9th January. Thank you everyone for joining. Thank you my team for organizing, and thank you Jayant sir for joining us and giving us the time.
Thank you so much.